It's starting. It started. Yay. Welcome back to Summon Tesla. So we are actually going to be talking about, I don't know, we don't really have much to talk about, unfortunately. Tesla has absolutely no news anymore. It seems like it's a company that just died off. Would you agree with me on that, Alex?
Well, this is probably one of the most exciting weeks and really days in the history of Tesla and probably electric cars. Would you agree with me on that?
Yes, I would. Absolutely. I think there is a lot that I think there's a ton that can definitely change in terms of what it is that Tesla has done and what they're planning on doing. The funny part is I looked at today's news and all that stuff, and one thing I find very interesting is everybody has been on Tesla forever. This company cannot possibly do a $35,000 car. I mean, in fact, I was reading that just a few months ago, like, some big analyst talking about there's no way in heck they can ever be able to do it. It's FUD, it's, typical Elon, blah, blah, blah. Turning around and doing this. I mean, this just turned the entire car industry on its head right now, I think, anyway.
Well, I think it wasn't even, well, there are a couple of things. One is obviously they could do it at any time as soon as they started selling one period. The question was, could they do it at profit, right? I think that's the biggest question. And it looks like the turning point was recently. And, they had to do quite a few things to get there. Um, that's one of the reasons the stock is down, right? Because now the investors go like, oh, damn, they're selling the cheaper version, so we make less money on this. But secondly, they have history of not following through with stuff. As you probably remember, they had a 40 kilowatt hour version for the Model S. They decided to kind of like forget about it. I think they only sold like 4 or 500. But I mean, I think at this with this particular one with $35,000 version Model 3, they just had no choice. They had to do it, even if it was going to be at the loss for a while, which I don't believe it is right now. And they just had to launch it. My only problem with this launch is, you know, this was Elon's big goal, right? That was pretty much the end of his journey as far as his vision. And if there was ever a reason to have a big event and have Elon in front of the world, this would have been yesterday. And it's very weird that they decided to make a very kind of weird announcement about it, and kind of roll it out with just a blog post, not even a press release. Um, but what really sucks is that everything else that came with it, right? The announcements of the price change for Model S and Model X, the closing of the stores, the shuffling of the autopilot features, like all of that had actually made this look like a chaos, like the company in the chaos. And I literally just released a video today is about is the company in
I
chaos.
saw that.
um and that sucks because I would have rather have them release all of that later or earlier, whatever, and let everybody rejoice about this amazing news. I haven't been the biggest Tesla fan lately, but I would be the first one. I feel like I'm the biggest cheerleader for this. I think this is the best thing that happened to this industry, and it sucks that it's been kind of tainted by the very company that made the news. So, but
One thing I do find very strange is that if you really, really look at it at the end of the day, the news coming out, if we really dissect the news, it makes sense. At least to me, it does. And I know that there's different ways of looking at it. The problem with Tesla is the same problem that it's one of the reasons I absolutely really, really don't like any publicly traded company. You got a genius like, and I think we can both agree, Elon is out there, but he's a genius. And
absolutely,
when you get somebody
absolutely.
like Elon with a vision, a privately run company is much better. Now, full disclosure, I am a stockholder, but I would be happy to give up pretty much all of my stocks to see this company go, actually go private. Having a publicly traded company, the problem is that there's too many people, trying to grab money, easy money. And here you are right now, like you said, this is actually a day to rejoice. We have a $35,000 or Model 3 that basically everybody and their grandmother literally said it's not going to happen. And this, how many times have you yourself have seen this? It's not going to happen. And you've seen everybody talking about this, and here it is. It's happening. And as for the rest of the news, I think it just makes sense. Like, look, I own a Model S. It's about a year old. I know what I pay for it. I look at the price now, and you'd expect me to go, well, wait a second. And this is something that I think has come up quite a few times. And it's kind of funny because I actually got asked that today by one of my friends. He goes, dude, like, aren't you upset at this? And I'm like, no. When I bought the vehicle, I bought it. I knew what I was getting into. And frankly, I think there's a mentality that has to change a little bit when it comes to, Tesla vehicles. Let's be honest. I find that I talk to people who still own their 2013 Teslas, and they have no plans in selling it because the car doesn't break down for them. There's no $1,000 oil changes, every 2 years or whatever. And I used to own a BMW, and well, actually, I used to own a lot of cars, but my last car was a BMW, and I dreaded the idea of how much I'm going to be spending yearly. To put that into perspective, I have not even come close to spending. I probably won't spend that on a Tesla over the next 4 years, what I spent on my BMW in 6 months, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what we should be taking away from this. It's all this news is good news. They just put it together really bad. It feels like they somebody took all this information, all these ideas, they threw it into the basket, and then as they were talking, like, let's pull this out and let's talk about this, let's pull this out. And I agree, it was completely disorganized.
Well, I mean, as you know, I wasn't lucky enough to have as good of an experience as you are having with Tesla. I'm on my third one, and they're literally, as I'm still admitting very much that Tesla is by far the best car out there. I can't wait to get out of it and get into another. And at this point, I'm just asking for a decent car, another decent electric car. Which, right now I'm a Audi e-tron reservation holder, but we'll see what happens with that. Not really happy with them right
Even though the
now.
Model 3 just dropped to 35,000.
Yeah, no, I don't. So the thing is, I don't want a Model 3. Oh,
Okay,
I definitely don't want a Model 3 at 35. Actually, by the way, let's be real. Nobody wants the $35,000 version Model
completely
3
agree
where
with
you
you.
can't even stream music. All right. So I think they were pretty smart to make sure that it was like, well, it's here, but you definitely don't want that. How about the $37,000 version where you can actually
Actually, I
listen to
think I
music?
think there is a market for it, because if you look at the older generation, you know that they don't want to play with technology. Can we both agree on that? I mean, I had this is something I made a recent video on. The older generation, they're looking at it like, look, I don't want complexity. I just want to get in my car and drive. Now, the younger generation, or those of us who grew up around basically cell phones and 1,000 monitors, we want that stuff. But the older generation who is switching, and I do see this a heck of a lot recently, especially in my area here. If I look at Model 3 drivers in British Columbia, in Vancouver, where I live, I would say 7 out of 10 are over the age of 50. And maybe it's just what I'm seeing, and I would love somebody to confirm that. But there's a lot of people in that age group, and trust me, the first thing they're telling me is they love the Model 3 because of its simplicity. They don't care about autopilot. I mean, they don't want to see autopilot. They don't want to see anything. All they want is to get in and get to their bingo and come back home. And it sounds funny, but that's really what it is. I think that's what the market really is.
I don't know. I don't know if I would call Model 3 simple. A car where you have to mess around with a screen to figure out your air conditioning, or the one that you have to pair up your phone to get into. I don't consider Model 3 as a simple car. I think actually older people would have problems with it. But to my point really is about the why I'm trying to find anything else that would be acceptable enough for me to switch. Is my ownership experience has been horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say the first year was very good in terms of customer service, even though the car would break down every 5 seconds. But granted, I knew I was a guinea pig. But at this point, it's I'm just so done. And I think it's not just even reliability and a crappy, horrible, almost disrespectful service. It's just things that, like, for example, the pricing, right? Imagine if you just bought $100,000 100D, literally, let's say in January, right? And you spend, let's say, 100,000 on it. Obviously, as soon as you took ownership, the price dropped. let's say by 10,000, okay? But he woke up today and realized that you just lost another $10,000 because now Tesla is selling exactly the same car for $10,000 less. How do you think those people feel? Well, where for with no warning, for no good reason, Tesla changed the pricing for the third time in this year, by the way, and it's just March 1st.
Right.
Even if this would be December 31st, I would be upset for the third price change in 1 year. But we're talking about 8 weeks. Um, Imagine how those customers feel.
Well, I am
Uh,
technically one of those customers, right? I mean, if you really think about it, that's what I am. I've had my car for what, 9 months, and like you said, in those 9 months or 10 months, the price has dropped dramatically quite a few times, right? So when I look at it, and I'm thinking, okay, it's from the day I bought it to now, how much money have I lost? But I think there's a perspective here because, well, I don't care, and I don't care about it, but a majority of the people, I agree 100% with you, are going to be thinking about that. And the reason I look at it as I don't care is because, frankly, when I buy something, a really good example of this is, I go out and let's say buy an item. Tomorrow it's on sale, and the day after that it's on 70% off, and I'm thinking, well, darn it, what happened? And the thing is with Tesla is the one thing I do find, and I think you'll agree with me on this, the things that they have going for them are the things that they're not talking about, and not very few people are. I mean, since I have owned this car, we went from version 8 to version 9. I'm just going to use the big stuff, right? We went from version 8 to version 9, massive upgrade in terms of how the car handles and everything else. When you get all these little things for nothing, it's very difficult to complain. Now, in your case, I feel for you, man. I really do. I would not want anybody to be in a position you are because the bad experience is bad experience, but you're not the only one. I made a video on that too, and I said, look, things do have to change. Customer service should always be number one on any company. If you don't have customer service, you don't have a business. That's just my motto on it. And Tesla has failed in many, many, many ways. And one thing I do notice is that I think it's so dependent. Now, I think, I don't know if you saw this video, but I made a video one day, cold call. So basically, I had my trunk didn't want to open up, the latch seized, right? And I found out about it, and I said, you know what, I'm going to make a video on this. So what I did is I basically got in a car, I drove to Tesla unannounced on a Saturday morning, which, by the way, here it's the busiest time for Tesla. And I just drove to the service center and I go, hey, my front doesn't open. And the guy goes, you have about half an hour, we'll have it fixed for you. And you know what? It was about half an hour. If I think it was actually less. And I got out. Now, the funny part is I was trying to make a point in exactly what everybody's complaining about. This customer service is so bad. And my whole intention was to make a video and saying, well, yeah, see, I mean, I was fully expecting for them to try and schedule me in like a month later. And that was my expectation. At the same time, I had a nail in my tire, by the way, and they fixed that too. So you see, I think it's a matter of where you are as well. It's location based and it's demand based. And
But
who?
it shouldn't be. Don't you think it shouldn't be a matter of where I'm at? If I own a Tesla, the experience should be good.
Okay,
Um, and by the way, so you just mentioned going from version 8 to 9. Even that was a problem, right? Because I didn't realize, I didn't know, because actually Tesla didn't tell me that now they're no longer going to be doing the over-the-air updates using the cell phone connection, right?
I
You
agree with
now you now had to connect Wi-Fi. Now, I did not receive any communications from them. On top of that, I also didn't receive the communication that the version 9 was ready for my car. I ended up calling in asking what's up. Of course, not of course, but I ended up spending over an hour on a phone. And then they told me, well, that it is what it is. And when I tried to connect, I couldn't connect because my Wi-Fi connection wasn't perfect.
you. Right.
Um, and I couldn't even update it to version 9. So to me,
I
I don't
never
know if it's customer service really per se. I mean, obviously spending over an hour on a phone is bad service, but to me, this is almost as design bad ownership experience.
It's possible, and I think there's so many aspects to it too. Whoops. Okay, I think one of the things about one of the other things too is, now me personally, I work in business, and one of the things I find is your area that you're in, and I'm not. obviously this is a, I'm treading on thin ice here, but the area you're in is the people that you can only hire, right? I mean, a lot of the times the people you can hire are local people, and so each area is dependent on that local employment possibility. So if, for example, here you can't be a mechanic, you can't go to, one day sweeping the floor and tomorrow being a mechanic. Here you have to go through some crazy stuff to be a mechanic. So those mechanics here are ridiculously, overjoyed in getting the job. But at the same time, there are, I was talking with somebody in the US, and he's telling me, like, it's pretty easy to become a mechanic. I don't like the sound of that. So I think it's very much dependent on the people's determination. If I'm going to go work for a company, and you know how this is, I'm sure of it, you're going to go work for a company. If you don't take pride in your job, it doesn't matter what the company wants.
By the way, I don't think this camera is switching to you as you're talking. I'm looking at the feed right now.
Now I am, but I left it
Uh,
on because I was curious about
uh.
your
But
reaction.
by the way, we also have a question in the chat from Kawa Couple.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, I know who that is.
listen, here's the thing. You I feel like you're doing what a lot of Tesla fans are doing. You're literally making an excuse now, saying, well, it depends on the area where the mechanic is really hard to hire. To me, is this. Listen, I don't care. I don't care. Then just don't sell it to me in this area, or don't promise me a good service in the area. And by the way, call centers can be anywhere. I don't care if it's in India or it's in Philippines. I don't want to spend over an hour on the phone asking why your crap doesn't work. So there's no excuse there, first of all. Secondly, there's no excuse not to tell me that now they are taking away a feature that I was relying on, and that the version is ready. So there's no excuse for that. But as far as having mechanics, I don't think the mechanics is a problem, really. The customer service is not about, there are plenty of good customer service people everywhere. And I'm in Silicon Valley and I'm in Sacramento, but all of my problems was in Silicon Valley. There's plenty of great service people there. I owned a Mercedes in Silicon Valley for years, never a bad service. So if Mercedes is able to employ those people, so should Tesla, yet they haven't.
Okay, I actually have something for that. First of all, I do agree with you. I find myself making excuses for them a lot of times, and I think a lot of Tesla owners do. You know what? I applaud you for actually saying that one of the things. It's one of the things that you say about your channel, unbiased, and I love that part. And I do make excuses for them in not necessarily the way I comes across. I think it's more of a problem where I think I keep asking the same question in my head over and over again. As a business that's been around for what, 10 years, right? Not even. No.
It's a little over. I mean, they've started. I think the Roadster's been there for 10 years. So I think
Right. So
12 or
let's
so.
call it 10 years. Starting
Yeah.
from absolutely nothing, from the ground up. A company run by Elon Musk of all people. I mean, let's leave that in the equation, because he will switch his mind from today to tomorrow, right? I don't expect to be easy to work for a guy like Elon Musk. I mean, the guy's a genius, so he's way ahead of everyone else, including himself, right? And but for the bottom line comes down to this: it's a 10-year-old company. I kind of challenge anyone to show me in 10 years somebody who has done what Tesla has done. And let's not forget the goal here. The biggest goal here is to push the electrification of cars. And I think they succeeded at this. Now, the fact that there's so many things going on, and the customer service as well, I completely agree with you. There's the customer service is their biggest and number one flaw. Number two flaw is communication. And the fact that you didn't know, for example, how do you even know? For me, the same thing happened with version 9. I actually wasn't aware of how the heck I'm supposed to do it. So the communication between Tesla and us is broken. I am in 100% agreement with that, and I am in 100% agreement that customer service needs to improve. What I think I'm trying to defend when it comes to Tesla is, for a young company, for a company that's been around, as short of a time as they have, and did as much as they have, there's a certain level of understanding that I think we need to balance out here. I don't expect a company that's been around this long to actually do what they do. And the fact is, there are going to be a lot more mistakes. I mean, mark my words, this video is going to be up on YouTube and I'll keep it up there. Mark my words, the next 3 years, I think, are going to be absolutely chaotic, one way or the other. And more than likely, it's not going to be chaotic in a good way. I think the the news is still going to have a ton of stuff to pick and go nuts on. But at the end of the day, can we all admit that a 10-year-old company completing such a massive, having such a huge impact on all of our lives is impressive in itself, and that in itself, not everything else, no excuses, but just the facts in itself is something worth giving them a high level of credit and a little bit of understanding. I think.
So I will take that challenge. So first of all, I totally agree. Yes, I'm giving them a lot of credit for this, and I think everybody else, from the point of a fan of the company and enthusiast of green energy revolution, I absolutely do. However, I'm also a customer who paid the money, right? And my money didn't come in as like, well, I can't dig in. I paid them green US dollars, and I expect them to deliver what I thought was I was buying. Now you wanna talk about the young company? Actually, I think what happens with young companies, if anything, in the beginning, they provide amazing customer service. We can go from a tiny little business like a new coffee shop in the neighborhood. Maybe their coffee is not that great, and maybe they didn't figure out the inventory ordering or whatever, or hired the best people, but you will probably find the best customer service in town there. And you go all the way to Amazon, a giant, and they're a pretty young company, and 10 years in, the way they got me wasn't necessarily the fact that it was shipping, or the fact that they had everything, and it was all good. What they got me with is a great customer service, and they've accomplished that in under 10 years. So if anything, I think the argument is the other way around. Is a young company like Tesla cannot afford provide a crappy customer service. If anything, we will forgive them not being able to make good cars, but we will not forgive them, or at least people like me or a lot of people will not forgive them providing a crappy customer service. Customer service has been invented a long time ago, and everybody knows how to provide it well, and they're not. Making electric cars, that's a whole different story. That's where I don't mind giving them a wiggle room. Like, you don't hear me complaining as much, at least, how much my cars have broken down, all three of them, right? I think it's more than an average guy, but that's not my real concern and complaint. My complaint: what happens when my cars break down?
Okay.
How am I treated, and what do they do so it doesn't break down in my next car? Like, I'm tired of the door handles to break down. Either stop making them or learn how to make them. You guys are on a third version of a simplest invention of a door handle. Either get it right, or put the old school door handle so I don't have to worry about getting in my car in the morning. You know, but I'm ready to forgive. But don't make me wait for a week to fix that door handle.
Okay, you know what? I'll actually give that to you. I honestly will. I applaud you because very few people actually get their way with me. But I'll give that to you, and I think you're right. Ultimately, if you're at the end of the day, I am very strong on customer service. So I have to admit that has been, and I've openly admitted, customer service at the end of the day has been a problem. And just because I haven't experienced it on a personal level, it does not mean it doesn't exist, because I have a, I am out there every week talking 20, 30, 40 people. I'm talking to everybody, and these are Tesla owners, and I do hear it. And I am, I guess, one of those lucky ones, like I said. But I do agree with you that at the end of the day, it's. What do you think is the number one thing? Do you think it's customer service that they have to change, or is communication that they have to change? If you have to choose between the two, uh, let's say Tesla says, okay, I'm going to focus very heavily on one of them. Which one would you rather have, the customer service or the communication? I'm curious.
Well, I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I think communication is part of customer service. You know what I'm saying? So I go ahead. Am I?
Right. Well, no, so let me rephrase that. So communication, I agree, is part of the customer service, but communication to the customer themselves with regards to, you answering and all, them answering. Customer service is a very broad thing. And see, this is the problem that I have. A lot of people do separate communication and customer service. It almost becomes two different things here. So here, it's a trick question, by the way. Here, you're the only one that actually I talked to in the last probably eight months, where you said it right off the bat. It's the same thing. And so if Tesla puts in enough effort into customer service directly, it's going to be basically a chain reaction throughout the company. However, at the end of the day, I don't see it happening. I just don't see Tesla putting so much effort into customer service. Maybe with maybe with more and more of the stores, closing down. I don't know how many they're going to close down. I know they're not going to close all of them, but uh,
They said most.
most, yes. But it still begs the question: how are people going to, be able to have their cars? I do like one of the videos today. I think you put it up where the gentleman you had on there said, Elon must be thinking about the fact that the cars will go to the customer. The customer will take it for a test drive, and the car will, if that's the case, then that's a massive fail. Because let's be honest, the full self-driving is not coming. It doesn't matter how people look at it. There's so many fundamental problems with the full self-driving. It's the reason I didn't buy it. I did not buy that because I literally said that's not going to happen. It's too many things. As long as you have one human being on the road with a million cars that can be self-driving, that one human being is going to mess everything up, because computers will not be able to comprehend what the heck is going through that guy's head, right?
Well,
And
it's interesting that you're bringing that up, right? Because I mean, we're just talking about customer service. Well, I'm just to answer your previous question is, I absolutely 100% agree that customer service is their biggest problem, and if they don't fix it in the next couple of years, they might just be in jeopardy of not being able to sell cars, and
completely agree.
especially now that they're counting on us, the owners, right?
Right. We're the
To
sales.
basically be the salespeople and test drive people, because they got to be delusional if they think it's the same thing, stopping by a Tesla showroom on a Sunday afternoon and taking a 15-minute drive and actually doing paperwork and buying a $40,000 car just to see if you like it. They got to be out of their minds.
I was sold on my test drive from the dealership, from the showroom. That's where I was sold. Honestly, that's where everything went. Brought me to the Tesla. It
Right,
was
and
not.
everybody says that. Everybody says that as
Everybody
soon as you
says,
sit into an electric car in general and Tesla in particular, you're sold. But what I'm saying is that they is equating a test drive that takes almost no effort whatsoever and an actual purchase, a major purchase with paperwork, that can be done within a week, and they think that people will actually spend their time and money on that versus the test drive. But to come full circle to my point is that, um, if they're going to count on us to do the test drives, to do the sales for them, as
pre-sales.
we have been,
Yeah.
they need to treat us well, because I am no longer one of that. I've been for a while, but I am out. As if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I want to buy an electric car. What do you think?" I'll be like, "Hey, I don't think you should buy a Tesla, dude. Like, here are a few other cars I would suggest you look into." So if there will be enough of me, and it sounds like our group is growing of Tesla owners who are starting to get disappointed, if that's going to grow, their new concept of let our customers sell the cars for us is going to suffer, and then they have no showrooms, then they're going to end up in trouble, and that 400,000 people wait list is not always going to be there. As a matter of fact, I strongly challenge that 400,000. Not that there's not 400,000 emails on there, but most of the people have two, so that's already cutting it in half, or at least by about 40%.
Right.
And a lot of those people are just waiting for the $35,000 version, which means, well, let's see if they like it now. On top of that, not all of them were going to wait for this car or can't buy it right now. They might be in the middle of a lease. So I think the quality of that 400,000, people list is
I
not as
say
good as
200.
Tesla thinks.
I
As
would
a matter
say
of fact, the guy that Elon hung up on in I believe it was Q1 earnings call was actually asking him about, and I thought it was the best question to ask ever, right? And Elon thought it was a what was it called? It stupid questions or I forgot what it called, right? But he had no problems, having Marquez Brownlee come over and essentially give him a hand job for half an hour, asking him softball questions, where the real question he didn't want to answer. But I still want an answer to that question because I think it's not really good. So at some point they'll realize they ran out of favors, they ran out of enough critical mass of fans because they treated them like crap, and they ran out of showrooms that they've shut down, and they might end up in a very different scenario. Oh, and by the way, don't forget all the competitors now. In another 2 or 3 years, they might have to reassess this.
you see, this is why I mentioned earlier the 3 year mark where it's going to be, that's why we're kind of on the same page with the time frame. I think the next 2 to 3 years will determine a great deal, and what Tesla will decide to do is going to be very, very, very important. I think going forward, every step they take is going to be pretty much crucial on no matter which way they go. And I think ultimately the issue here is that we have we have a CEO who's a billionaire, right? And so understanding the general budget by most people who have that kind of money is very, very hard for them to comprehend. And I think when you have somebody like Elon, he's thinking, I think, in my opinion, 20 years ahead rather than thinking 2 years ahead. Yes, maybe in 20 years we're all going to be ordering everything online and nothing. There will be nothing else. Maybe in maybe 20 years we won't exist. I don't know. But you can't think so far ahead. You still have to be in the realm of reality. It's like promising full self driving, blah blah blah, by the end of the year. Holy moly. I mean, I think it's one of the things that you consistently go back on. The guy has to stop tweeting. He has to just smile, get in front of the camera and give us a thumbs up, and we're all happy, and focus on everything in the background. The guy's an engineer. He's not a company, he doesn't run companies. He doesn't understand. Engineers typically don't understand customer service. I'd like to point that out. Now, I hope there's no engineers that are watching this because I'm going to get clobbered, but in my experience, they are very, focused on the task at hand. That they don't care about, all these extra stuff. And I think with having Elon, running as much as he does, it's too overwhelming for him. And I think you need the right people in when it comes to the company. In my opinion, hire a person who specializes specifically with customer service, give them the power to get it right, and maybe take Elon off the tweets, or at the very least, I don't
Well,
know.
SEC is going to take care of that. I thought they did, but apparently they didn't. So SEC is going to take care of the Twitter account. By the way, do you want to answer the question from the Kawa couple in the chat? Because I
But
think it kind of it
go
goes
ahead.
with what we're talking. Because they're asking, what do you think is going to happen for the autopilot options for people that already have the enhanced autopilot, and are they going to lose out or keep the feature they already paid for? And this only goes to this whole chaos, right? I mean, and so things change so much. And now, by the way, the autopilot pricing is gone down, right? And got restructured. Um, on top of that, I think that that's the least of their problems with autopilot. I think they had a much bigger problem in the last few years where they started selling a new version that took 2 years to catch up to the previous version. It was funny how people like, I have a 1.0 version, and how people bought their Teslas 2 years after me, and the autopilot wasn't even half as good as mine that was like 2 years old at that time. But yeah, no, this is one of many problems, and this is just like with price switching, just like they've done the refresh all of a sudden of the front end of the Model S, just like they're restructuring stuff. So it pisses people off, right? That maybe gotten something they thought they overpaid for, or now can get cheaper, or they feel like they didn't get what he promised. So it pisses the existing customers off, but it also gives sort of a pause to those who are shopping for either their next Tesla or the very first Tesla, because they're thinking like, wait, is this the right moment to buy? Is am I going to buy a car and tomorrow is going to be $10,000 cheaper, or is it the body style is going to change? Am I going to buy this feature and it's going to be free tomorrow, or actually the new one's going to come out and I won't qualify because my hardware is no longer working with it, right? So it's bad, and I just don't understand why there is no strategy, right? This basically tells us there is not much of a strategy for all these feature releases and pricing releases, and it means there's no adults in charge, right? Elon is not qualified to make a lot of these decisions. He's a genius designer. He's a great frontman, but just like you said, he's not good at customer service. He's definitely not good as an understanding a marketing strategy and sort of a customer acquisition strategy as far as keeping the features and customer satisfaction going. Someone has to come in, but who wants to work for him at this point? Only people who are willing to be sort of puppets, right? And until he indicates to people that hey, I'm willing to hire somebody and trust that person, so go ahead and run my customer service, I don't think he will be able to hire a person who would be able to fix this.
You do actually bring up a good point. I mean, it seems like we're both in agreement. He shouldn't be doing a lot of the stuff he's doing. So we can both agree on that. But in regards to the question, I am very curious. So for example, I have enhanced autopilot, right? But some of the stuff from my enhanced autopilot are, I mean, with the whole restructuring right now, technically speaking, if I'm looking at the structure, and you know this, I know you've talked about this so much that you probably know this by heart by now, but if I look at the structure the way it's going, technically, isn't it kind of weird? Because I almost feel like I should be getting the full self-driving in my package. Am I seeing that wrong? Because basically I'm maxed out on everything except the full self-driving. But if you look at with the whole new restructuring, the way they placed everything, I mean, technically I should be upgraded to the full self-driving at this point. Now, I'm not sure how that's going to work out or what's going on there, but this is exactly what you're talking about. This is the issue that we have here. Yes, this is why I wanted you on my show. By the way, thank you so much for being on the show. But this is why I wanted you here, because I love people who challenge they look at things realistically and especially in an unbiased way. And having you here gives me a chance to kind of look at things a little bit differently. I watch a lot of your videos, but it's nice to be able to ask you a question and have you pop back at me, directly like this. But it's wonderful to have you here. But I'm curious, what do you think about the packaging about this relating to that question? What do you think about it? Like, so now is how does that work at this point? I mean, technically speaking, by if you look at that list again, if I bought everything but the self-driving, a lot of the things are going into in a way that technically I should now be upgraded to the full self-driving. Is that what I'm getting here?
You're not seriously asking a guy about possible logic and an explanation for what should happen when I just like spend half an hour explaining how I don't understand what's going on. You have to understand, this is crazy for anybody watching outside of this Tesla bubble to tell me that I bought a car and it took that car 2 years to get to the point where a 2-year-old car at that point was. Right? They produced a product named the 2.0 over the 1.0 version, and it wasn't nearly as good. How does that happen? And by the way, they had to settle a lawsuit of a bunch of people who just sued them for that, right? Somehow everybody forgot about that. But so no, there is no logic. I mean, can you explain the logic in this Model S and Model X pricing? When they asked 75D, I was like, oh my God, what they like, there is no good solution now because I mean, I literally could not figure out what, like, that was one of the worst things I think they could have done to the Model S and Model X. And look now, they themselves are not able to figure out the solution, changing the prices now twice since then. So I cannot tell you what a logical or reasonable explanation of what the Tesla feature should be today or tomorrow.
And see, that proves a point. If you who yourself, I mean, your whole job is to find out information on, stay up to date. And if somebody like yourself has absolutely no idea how to answer that, which I don't blame you, by the way. Um, it kind of proves a point, doesn't it? So again, we go back to the same thing. Ultimately, I think the Model 3 is, being at 35,000. First of all, it's never going to be 35,000. You're right. I mean, there's going to be a very few people that are going to order that car. Maybe, I guess, if they're only approved up to that point from their bank, then they'll settle
I
for
mean,
it.
let's face it, the 37,000 version is just too good not to buy if you're gonna spend 35,000, right?
I,
Like it's, I mean, it's still, I mean, don't get me wrong, $35,000 version Model 3 is still the best bang for your buck. I mean, even because if you don't get, streaming music, you can still, a lot of people still listen to that music through Pandora, which is not available on Tesla, or like I listen to the music, but I stream through YouTube. So I don't think that's a deal breaker. And everything else that kind of has that most other people in the same other cars in the same price range don't have. So it's still a great buy. But I'm just saying, for 2,000 extra dollars, you can get a lot of stuff. You get more range, you get the streaming thing, you get automatic seats. Like it's the best deal ever.
it feels like it's almost a $2,000 rip off. You rip yourself off if you don't pay it, and that's what it feels like. So, but I mean, you're talking about streaming music. I would like to point out, actually, I'm working on a video right now that, unfortunately, because it's YouTube, you and I both know I can't put music in there, right? So I'm figuring that out, but I'm working on it. My music on the streaming side is basically, it feels like, in our day, I guess, it feels like a CD that's skipping on a Walkman. And that's on my streaming. I've been meaning to go into Tesla and figure out like what is going on with that one. So I kind of stopped listening to the streaming part of the music. And I do listen to my local radio because, lucky for me, I have some good radio stations here. But I kind of want to go back to my streaming. So it's one of the next trips I'm going to be taking down to Tesla and saying, okay, why is my streaming sounding like a 1994 CD player that basically skips every time I'm gonna take a step? You know
I
what I
think I
mean?
can answer that for you and save you a trip. I'm actually having the same problem. I moved to a different area where the AT&T 3G signal is just not that good, and that's what happens. And even if when the signal was good, there's still a lot of problems with, like, obviously, like I would rather use Pandora than Slacker, right?
Right.
First of all, it's just a much better music suggestion platform. Secondly, I don't think people even figured out that there's two different types of streaming platforms there. One is Slacker, and another one is TuneIn, and they kind of mixed it up in such a way where people don't even understand one over the other, and it still hasn't been fixed. So even if when it does stream correctly, it's still very confusing.
Well, you just confused me because actually I was not aware of that.
Really?
I
So you don't
really wasn't.
okay. So there are two services. So for example, Slacker is kind of like Pandora, right? You'd say, listen, I like this artist or I like this song, and it will play that song, and then it will try to find similar songs, except for it's really bad at it, by the way.
Yes,
But
it is.
never, like that's the concept. And a tune-in radio is more where you kind of find online radio stations, right? All over the world. So like I find Russian radio stations. I'm originally from Russia, so I use TuneIn for that. But when I want to listen to Beatles and like music that's like Beatles, then I go to Slacker. It does kind of put all when you favor those stations, they kind of put it in the same pool.
Oh,
So that's yeah, that's kind of that's how they get united, and that's probably one of the big stronger points. But you definitely have to go and search through two different databases with two different concepts of how the music gets delivered to you, and I don't think they've done a good job. Having a good user interface, because obviously you weren't even aware of that. So by the way, so you're in Canada, and
oh
I
my
don't
God.
know, so I don't know, maybe you're just don't
Maybe I'm
have
just a
one of
bad
them.
YouTuber. Let's put it that way.
No, so I've heard that like Slacker is not available in some countries, so maybe you may only have TuneIn or only Slacker, so you might want to double check on that. Um, but I'm just saying, here we do have both, and it's a bit of a disaster and confusing. But going to your point, you're right. This 3G AT&T connection is killing me here.
It is, and it becomes an issue, especially like I have somebody sitting in the car. I was just showing them the car, and the radio cut out. The music cut out, and he's like, "What happened?" I'm like, "I'm pretty sure that's the internet." I wasn't sure, but I'm just guessing that it was the internet. So,
By the way, what
I
a
mean,
horrible test drive, right?
yeah, well, no, I mean, the guy loved it. It actually ended up buying one. But the funny part, though, is, I mean, if you're gonna go down that path, is, I mean, it's the same thing like with the web browser. I still don't know what the purpose of that is. I never used it, to be honest. I even tried connecting my phone as a hotspot. It still doesn't work. I don't have a clue really why they even put that in there. I don't know. I don't really care at this point. I do like, I love lots of features about this car, but there are some things which are, you know, again, it goes back to the same story. Look, Elon needs to be Elon for the company, but Elon needs to step away from the things that he doesn't understand or doesn't want to understand. And I don't think he ever claimed. I think actually, on the contrary, I think he pretty much came out and said, I am not this. So if he came out and said that, he says, I am not this, why don't we see somebody in that position that he's talking about, that he knows very well that he doesn't do that? He's not the business type. He's not he's an engineer. And aside from that, if he comes out and says it, look, I don't know how to do this. That's not my specialty. What, that means he's fully aware that he doesn't know how to do that. So why does he not hire people to do that? And I, these questions do kill me sometimes. But we're running out of time here, and I've already kept you a little bit longer than I
That's
wanted
okay. I'm
to.
enjoying this.
But honestly, when it comes down to it, I think that one of the great things about the YouTubers and a lot of people just out there talking is, I think it still puts pressure on the company. And you're right. Ultimately, we now become the full salespeople. They don't have full staff. They don't have any staff at this point. Well, going forward anyway. I think now they are relying fully on us. And if they want us to, be the salespeople, they better improve that. So I am once again in agreement with you on that. I think the only part where it's so hard for me to really relate is on a personal level. Now, I'm not talking about the people that I talk to, and it's on a personal level. And it's something you yourself know, especially as a YouTuber. You can talk all you want about a car, but until you don't go out there and actually experience it for yourself, it's extremely difficult for you to really be able to give a detailed information or the right information. You collected as much data, you did your due diligence, but it's still not the same as you yourself being in. By the way, congratulations on your trip lately. That was a very nice test. I'm sure that was a great test drive. It was a great trip for you. But
You're talking about the e-tron?
yes.
Okay, yeah.
So, but it's, imagine if you just have to talk about the e-tron without actually being in the e-tron, right? See, this is the problem when it comes to customer service for me, because I mean, at this point, I'm almost saying, unfortunately, and this is going to sound stupid, but unfortunately, my customer service has been ridiculously good. I mean, I have zero complaint. I have complaints about every manufacturer that I've ever owned, and I own more cars than I would like to admit. That means I spent way too much money, but I basically own more cars than I would like to admit, and I have complaints about every single one of them, the way I was treated. And yet, with Tesla, I am getting the exact 100% opposite. So this is why I love talking to people and trying to understand, where are you guys coming from? Because unfortunately, I got 7 customer service degrees. That tells you something. I'm very, very oriented when it comes to customer service, and I have not yet been disappointed. The ironic thing is about calling in. When the last time I called Tesla, they picked up the phone pretty much instantly. So this is what I'm saying. As for me, I have a hard time relating, but I love. That's why I can't argue with anybody back and forth with it, because I found myself in a position where I guess I said this in multiple videos. I think I just hit that golden goose egg, because
Well, how long have you owned it? You said 9 months?
just under a year, I think it
Okay.
is.
Okay. So, well, I have to say, my first year, as a matter of fact, 2 years have been wonderful as well. So I guess I'm saying give it time, but really, let's just stop and sort of acknowledge that this is actually pretty sad that you know we you're saying that I really wish it was different. I really wish that the ownership experience would match the
Promise.
amazing product that they have, right? And not just the car is, superchargers and stuff like that, and the showrooms. So, first of all, give it time, but I really hope that things will change because at some point something's got to give on one way or another. So I really hope it changes because just like I said, I'm not moving to Audi e-tron or whatever because Audi e-tron is such an amazing car. It's okay. It's decent enough for me to drive it. I had some issues with it myself. Nothing is perfect really, but I'm not going to drive an e-tron for the e-tron. I'm going for a better customer service. I'm going for a better build and a luxury interior. I'm going there because if it gets into an accident, I don't have to wait for months and months and drive a gas rental car that's not covered by insurance company after 30 days. Like I'm going there for again the ownership experience and not the product, and it's a shame. It's a shame because I would have loved to stay.
I and I see exactly where you're coming from. Actually, you know what? Talk about the ownership, the accident. I had 6 days after I bought my car, somebody that had no idea how to parallel park, and right in front of me, they hit my car. It took them to 1 week to repair it.
What color Prius was this? Can you tell me? No.
So
Okay.
close. So about now, just recently, we had a snowstorm here, and I unfortunately one of the snowplows actually hit my car again. So this is twice now my car's been hit when it was parked, and it's crazy. I have to go in. The looks like the front bumper, the fender, all of the light, all that stuff have to be changed. Which is ironic, because if I show you a picture, you can barely see the damage, but it's bad enough that it has to be changed. And it looks like it's going to take another week basically for me to get it fixed. I still have my car. I just take it in as soon as the stuff shows up, and it's going to get fixed. Actually, I probably could take it in now, but so estimated time is around a week. And see, I think this is what I'm saying. Like it depends, I guess, on ands ifs or buts. Because recently I talked to a gentleman who had his who ran into a tree. I don't know how. Don't ask me. He didn't explain to me how. He ran into a tree.
Probably just appeared in front of him.
Yeah, I know those darn trees, man.
Yeah,
Casper the Friendly Tree is not my favorite tree, I'll tell you. But
absolutely.
so yeah, he ran into a tree, and he's telling me that their estimated time before he gets all the parts is about 4 months. Ironically, he's got the front bumper, the hood, and the hood is because of the branch. So he didn't hit the tree hard. It looks like it's just the front bumper by the looks of it. He's saying 4 months, and I'm getting 1 week. I don't understand this. And my parts already arrived actually, but I asked them if they can paint it first, and then I'll bring my car by. So I have minimal time with a courtesy car, mainly because my last courtesy was a Toyota Corolla, and it was the hardest thing for me to drive, going from an EV to a Toyota Corolla. That was painful. But yeah, it is very strange. I think.
Well, it's not strange because Elon himself told us, and I don't even know why he would say it out loud, how horrible they were all these years at even understanding what a parts distribution concept is. I mean, you literally can walk into any body shop, like literally just pick one, the dirtiest, smallest one, and they will tell you how to do the parts distribution, right? And all of a sudden, Elon Musk said, "Hey guys, you know what? After all these years, I think we finally figured it out. We shouldn't have it on central location. We should have this thing called inventory, right?" And I know everybody kind of skipped through it, but to me, when I heard it, I was like, "Wait a second. First of all, how dumb." And secondly, how double dumb of even saying that out loud. Like at least don't admit it if you realize they were doing it. But he gave you the answer, right? They just weren't adulting as far as figuring out how the part distribution works. Now, this is not just about the part distribution. Obviously, the problem is also they just don't make enough of them because they're trying to get the cars out just so they can sell them, right? So, but even the distribution, something they literally could have like. There are parts of the company that they have to invent stuff, right? And I understand when that goes wrong, but there are some things like brakes, for example. There's absolutely odd parts distribution that there's absolutely nothing new about it. It's the same technology or the same concept for decades and decades and decades, and yet they weren't able to figure it out until few months ago. So he gave you the answer.
Yeah,
Why?
it's
You
it
know?
it is kind of funny because I feel most people don't understand this, don't realize this, but the suspension on Tesla is nothing revolutionary. This is basically the same as any other car. The technology hasn't been revolutionized as far as suspension, brakes, wheels, and none of that stuff has been actually changed. Those are standard basically, and I agree with you that there is a problem there too. But I think, okay, I'm gonna sum this up, but I'm gonna basically go ask you one final question, and that is, do you think that if Tesla would have been a private company or would have actually gone, we don't want to go there, but let's just assume that the possibility to go private exists. Do you think that as a private company, without the pressure of shareholders, without the pressure of, you know, everything that comes with being a public company, do you think Tesla would be a better company?
Okay, so first of all, any company would be a better company if they're private, because then it's all about the customer. By the way, let's just define what a better company is. The better company for customers is different than the better company for investors in the business, right? This is
Right.
why this amazing announcement about the $35,000 Model 3 has tanked the stock, because it's great for customers and it's bad for investors because of the smaller profit margin, right? Sometimes they're totally the opposite, and that's why if we're talking about doing the right thing for the customers, that any company is better if they're not public, if they're private, right?
Absolutely.
So the answer is absolutely 100% yes. But at the same time, you can also ask yourself, would Tesla be this far along if it wasn't for the pressure of the investors and the stock market and so forth? And I think the truth might lay somewhere in between, right? As a customer, oh, absolutely, I would love them to be a private. But as far as a fan of the movement, of the company, of the progress and stuff like that, I kind of like the pressure of, hey, if you say you're going to make 20,000, Model 3s per month in December of 2017, and you didn't, well, you better hurry the hell up and try to get there as soon as possible. So it's a very loaded question, but and I think the answer is literally the opposite, depending on how you define the a better company. But we'll see what happens, because I think there's still a possibility for them taking it private. I mean, hell, Dell just went private very recently, right?
Yeah.
So it is possible. Um, but I, you know, for now, I would rather have them concentrate on things like customer service and parts distribution than trying to take the company private. And by the way, I wouldn't have been very crazy, just like I'm not crazy about Lucid being invested by a Saudi Arabia public fund. I consider myself a journalist, at this point, and also a decent human being, and I have a problem with the money that's coming from the regime that basically just had a major problem, I would call it, with free press and journalists and humanity in general. Now, let me make it very clear that I understand that any large corporation would have investments from money that can be traced to almost any bad cause, right? Everyone's doing business with China, everyone's doing business with Middle East and everything. You can trace it to whatever. But if you are having a major shareholder come from there, I might have had I might have had to look into it a little bit more and see exactly where the money is coming from and what the interests are behind it before I would have even been happy about that. Just like with Lucid, like once Lucid starts getting going and it looks like their company again, with a promising future, I will probably look into that and see if I can support that company. Because if the money is coming from the sources that are too bluntly, obviously stained by blood, I will not support them, even though they are an electric car company. So let's see what happens. Listen, this is going to be an amazing and interesting and entertaining year, and probably 2020 will be just as.
Yeah.
And we're obviously we spend most of our time talking about Tesla, and I understand, but there's so many exciting things going on outside of that. Like, I mean, even take Neo in China, which is doing this technology of battery swap, which I think Tesla missed out on. Think about Byton, the company is actually probably the most innovating automotive company right now, because in the stage where they can do that, and Tesla and others cannot. There are quite a few other amazing things that are coming out. And by the way, self-driving technology is also being developed by many other people out there, and better than Tesla, at least at this point. So I am extremely excited to what Tesla has done to this industry and to the world, and we are living in a really, really amazing times. And just think about it: we're on YouTube, right? We're broadcasting to the world and from our like living rooms, talking about self-driving cars, and that run off of sun, essentially. I cannot think of a better time to live in, at least here in the United States. And so all of the problems we've talked about, obviously, are the first world problems, as they say, but somebody has to solve them in order for the entire world to move forward. And that's what I'm here for, I guess.
You know what? I absolutely love the fact that you brought up the first world problems, because I say that a lot actually on my other channel, but I use that so much. But ultimately, when it comes down to it, I think you know we live in a time when, man, the changes are so fast and they're coming at us at such a rapid pace. Even you, and you know what, I am definitely going to be calling you a journalist, because I believe you truly are one. But when it comes down to it, I think there's so much happening that we half the time can barely comprehend half the stuff. And not only that, but it's how much is happening that we don't even know about. Let's be honest, these companies keep a lot of things very, very close to their heart until they're ready to go. And we can only imagine if it's on the market. I go back to the good old military days. Like if you saw a F-16, there was something else in the works that everybody thought was a UFO, right? So and I think that's what's happening in this world at large, right? We live in a wonderful time, and especially for people who like you and I, who basically just enjoy, you know I guess this, like you said, it's YouTube. I mean, we are literally, like, essentially, just look at the miles between us. It's ridiculous. You're down in California. I'm from Vancouver, man, and here we are chatting on YouTube, and we can actually have a conversation. And yes, I think Tesla has done an amazing thing as far as getting everybody going, and all these companies are going to keep going. And I'm hoping to see much more improvements on everybody's side. I'd love to see uh, innovations and things to do better for everyone. And as for customer service, I don't care if it's Tesla, I don't care who it is. I think customer service always should be number one. And I think that's just, to me, it's common sense. Obviously not to all the companies, one specifically, but ultimately, you know what, here we are. All I can say right now is it has been an absolute pleasure having you on the channel. I thank you so much for agreeing to this, and I am absolutely in love with your memes on Instagram. So if anybody wants to watch some good fun things, follow this guy on Instagram, E for Electric, because damn, it's good.
They're
So
actually, I post them on Instagram. They're actually meant for this new platform called TikTok.
yes.
And the a lot of these are actually essentially challenges. People think like, oh wow, you thought of all of this stuff. And it's like, no, 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 you give me too much credit. I'm not that creative or good or funny. I'm literally following some of the challenges that I see on TikTok, and then I just repost them on Instagram, just so more people can see it. But if you have kids, they'll explain what TikTok is. But just like with any platform, kids adopt it first, and then adults show up, and that's why I want to be there early. And I think I now have like 11 or 12,000 subscribers there, because I think that is a platform that's going to be out here a big time. And I do enjoy making those funny, silly videos, so people know that in between hating Tesla, I actually do a lot of fun stuff with it.
Yeah, it's again, I honestly, I don't know what else to say except for thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate your time because time is everything. So I appreciate your time. I appreciate for you to agree with me. Please keep up the great work. I love your approach to everything. I don't always agree with you, but that's the whole point, right? And
That is
I
the
think
whole point.
I think
And
I'm gonna
listen,
be
this was fun. This was, I mean, I feel like we had a great conversation, which I don't always get to have because I mainly don't have anybody to talk to, just the camera. So this was fun.
yeah, it is wonderful. I think, and that's, and people forget that, the world is built on disagreements. It's not built on agreements. We By disagreeing, we learn more, we broaden our knowledge, and we see different perspectives. Because if we all are all on the same agreement, this whole electric thing wouldn't even be happening because everybody's going down the same path. So again, although we may not see eye to eye, I have a great deal of respect for you, and I hope you continue doing this because, well, I haven't missed a video yet, so that says a lot because I missed a lot of other
It
people's videos.
does say a lot because neither does my mom or my, when I had a girlfriend, none of them watched every single video. So I really appreciate it. And I gotta tell you, like, the comments like this actually is what gets me going. And I keep, you understand, right? Making 3 videos a day is insane. I mean, I know a lot of YouTubers out there, and I only know one YouTuber that I think makes like $500,000 a year, and that he makes 3 videos and he has a staff of 21 people. I don't employ anybody right now. So my only drive, my only juice is the fact that people are watching. And just like you say, we don't need to agree, right? We just need to be on this in the same movement, which I think we are.
Yeah.
And the more ideas and more conversations and debates, the better we all are off. As long as I bring the information and let people think about it, right? That I feel like I did my job. And so I really appreciate you and people like you actually making it possible for me to do this as a living, which I just started doing, which is absolutely unbelievable and amazing. So thank you for actually following me and watching my videos, even though sometimes you might not be, you may not agree with everything. So thank you.
Yeah, you do give me a few moments where I just want to pull my hair out, but lucky I'm bald, so it doesn't.
Wow, that's a lot
It's
of now I can tell you watched a lot of my videos. All right, that
so,
makes sense.
but yeah, no, I mean there are those moments, but at the end of the day, like I said, I'm bald, so I have nothing to worry about. Couple, thank you very much, and at the same time, I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm gonna sign off, and please, guys, go over there. Oh, by the way, people can support you on Patreon because you do have a Patreon, don't you?
I do have a Patreon, and that's the only place where you can actually watch me live. I don't do live streams like these on YouTube anymore. It all goes live on Patreon, so people can watch me live there. And I also do some extra stuff for my Patreons. I will tell them what's going on with my day or what my plans are, and then I, kind of, tape that and record that, and that's what you see me posting throughout the day on YouTube. So what my Patreon saw today, people will either see like later. I'm just about to post a video, and or even tomorrow morning. So, but I think most people there just want to, throw a few bucks my way so I can, pay my rent, and buy some food. So, and I mean, without them, I couldn't have done it.
Well, you certainly deserve it. And once again, thank you very much. And for everybody, go check them out. The link is in the description. I had it in the description the whole time. So all you guys have to do is go over there and check them out. In the meantime, thank you again, Alex. I truly appreciate it. And with that, I'm going to say good night to everyone. Bye bye.